Hi everyone, welcome back to another progress video. Today it's Zapier day 7, or right, day 8. Last night was day 7. So here we have a couple of functions that were added, so actually endpoints. The main ones are view function and method name, which I'll get back in a second. I also added the changes and view for the account, as well as code, state, and their respective changes for the contract endpoints. Of course, I added the basic tests for those, just to see that everything is working. Then I've added some field definitions and some helpers like this here, parse, which is basically to parse the buffer so that we can make the input more user-friendly, so that the user can basically input the prefix as a string, and then we parse it to buffer and encode it, or whatever the endpoint needs in terms of arguments. And the main thing was view function. So the goal was to basically let the user type in the function, the account ID where the contract is uploaded to, and then, or deployed to, and then parse that contract, or the code from the contract to extract the method names and create a dynamic dropdown from the method names so that the user can choose what method he wants to call. And I was successful at doing that. So basically, as you can see, we have just the regular parameter passing around for the function. And the thing that is basically different from all of the other searches that I created was this method name addition. As you can see here, this is the dynamic field on the method name field, or the field definition, which basically tells Zapier to look for a trigger with this name and use the ID from the trigger as input for this field, and use the name of that trigger, or the result from that trigger, as the label to use for the dynamic dropdown items. So let me show you the trigger. The trigger is basically receiving the account ID, as you can see here, the account ID, which is an argument here as well. So when the user inputs that argument, then this dynamic field changes and uses that argument to get the contract view. And since I only need the code, I'm gonna take the code parameter, destructure it, and then use the get method names function from the near contract parser library to extract those names, and then just map it out to an array of ID and name objects, which will then basically create that dynamic dropdown. So let me show you a demo of how that works. This right here is the account ID of contract of an account where I deployed a contract. It's like a Rust Riddles contract. You can see that it's one of my first videos, and when I click here, you can see it's loading because it's calling that trigger, and it's gonna give me, here it is, a list of all the methods available on the contract, and then I can choose whatever method name I want to call. And let us try a different contract. So the most famous one of them all, museum.testnet. There we go. And now, as you can see, it's gonna start loading again, but this time it'll give us different functions, as you can see here. So let's see, for example, get meme list. Since this one doesn't have any function arguments, I'm just gonna say continue, and let's see here, and this is it. So basically it returned the result. This is a regular result in the form of a buffer, but at the end there I also parsed that result and basically extracted the JSON from it, and here we have a list of those memes. So I'm pretty excited that this is working now. This is, I think, very user friendly and a lot better than having the user know in advance the exact spelling of the method or whatever. And now my goal is to basically add the transactions and the change method calls, which should basically look the same, just with the addition of accepting a private key so that those can be signed. The user can provide their own key, so it doesn't really matter to me if it's a function or a full access key, but it's always better to use a function key, because that way we don't have the ability to basically change anything on the user's account, like transfer all of their tokens or deploy new contracts or delete their sub accounts or whatever. So that's about it. I didn't have any time to work on the article today, so that's gonna be done next week. And also what I'm planning to do is basically going over all of these methods and improving the documentation a bit. Maybe work on like extracting this code somehow, because this is pretty much similar. Pretty much every function or search or trigger is created the same way. You define an interface for the input, for the result, and then use that to create a function, the perform function, and then pass that to the create trigger or create search function. And even the body of the function is pretty similar, so for each one it's get the network, log the input, which I mean I can change that. This was basically for debugging for purposes or for easier development. This is gonna be updated later. And then this is pretty much the only custom part, with exception in this function I also kind of change this, but that could all be like one block of code, and then just log that function call was successful or not, and return. So it's pretty similar. It's just I haven't figured out, or rather didn't put that much time into thinking about how to extract that into something common, but that would be a pretty abstract function. So we'll see, maybe a CLI tool would be better, because it would generate everything and then you would just write the custom code, but that's something to think about for later. And what else we have also on the list before publishing the app, I'll have to add custom zaps demonstrating how everything works, and some users are gonna need to jump on board and you create custom zaps for this, so that the zap or the integration has some following, so that they would have reason to publish it. And I'm probably gonna write some instructions and stuff like that, some user-facing documentation. And for the guys watching the videos till the end, I have tried to fix OBS. I believe I got everything right now. NVENC is working. and I think that resolution is high enough. I also increased the size of the fonts in the editor just to make it more clear, and I've added some lighting across the room, so I hope this video turns out better than the last one. Thanks everyone for watching, and see you next time.